Hi everybody, this is Doug Garrison. We're back with the third episode of messing with the generation tank concept. So we've got the hull done, we've got the turret done, now we need to move on to getting the weapons going. So what we mentioned in the previous video is what we're kind of going to probably do is we're going to just take the turret and put objects on it so that way we can find those objects and just attach the weapons to them. That way we don't have to sit there and align all the data inside of our data object or anything, and we can just parent the objects to the sub-objects. At least that was kind of what I was thinking. One of the other ways we could do this would be a little bit more tedious. We could just use an object that's a child object, figure out where our data points are, get those set up, record those into our data, and then delete those objects when we're done. Which is what I think we're actually going to do, because that'll reduce the amount of stuff that we need to generate every time we generate a new object, which is kind of important. It's not that big of a deal on the tank, but you got to think this same data structure is going to be used for our AIs, is going to be used for our turrets, is going to be used for like anything we need to be using it for. So trying to get that data down and make it faster is actually kind of important, especially if we're spawning tons of really small AIs that are using the same data structure system, which is very possible. So I know there's a couple levels I want to swarm the player with. At least a ton of really small enemies. That way, if they ever unlock the flamethrower or the shotgun and machine guns and stuff, then it would be a really nice killing field to go play with. Speaking on that note, I almost forgot to mention, I do have an idea that we may end up doing health drop orbs in this game. One of the ways I'm thinking about explaining it away in the lore is by saying they're energy drops that then your built-in reactor on your tank can utilize to then repair itself. And it will say like, hey, your tank comes with built-in repair kits and stuff, or built-in repair capabilities, but your reactor on your tank is not powerful enough to both operate at the same time, fire your weapons, and repair itself. But if you pick up these drops, it'll overcharge your reactor, allowing it to run temporarily to heal you or give you other power-ups. At least that's what I'm thinking. It would definitely make sense from an arcade point of view, and we don't have to explain the science of it too much because we're on an alien planet, it's an arcade game, etc. So let's get the data set up for this. Let's actually go ahead and I want to clip the gun parts off this. Yeah, we probably should do this inside of Kim. So let's get... Yeah, at this point, because we know how big the turret is, and we already got it scaled to the body, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to delete all of the body parts out of this and then save it as a separate file. That's actually what we ended up using for the turret placement. I want to leave that in there just so we know where that is. So I kind of like that. And we'll delete it right here. And what we're going to do is hit File, Save As. And we'll call this Lancer Turret. And we need to move these, eventually these GIMP files out of the workspace. I think what will happen if we don't set up things right, it'll actually put these into the compiled version of the game, which will be extra file space that we don't need. So we've got the turret. The turret actually should already be set up. Oh yes, it's already set up so we can remove the guns. I'm happy I did that. So we got the hatches. I didn't actually ever finish working on this, by the way. So we've got a lot of work that needs to be done on this. It's actually a very simple turret. And let's actually see about... Is there an auto crop? I don't want to like full-on crop this down, but I do want to get the image to be a little smaller. Let's just do this real quick, and we'll thumb with the numbers over here. And we'll say like 200, 200. That's too much. That's not centered very well. I say that's close enough. We should be able to come up here and we go image, crop the selection. That gets our image down size-wise, so that way it's a little easier to work with, and we also don't overextend off the body of the turret. Good, that'll work. Now we need to kind of arts and craft this so that way, one, we need all the gun barrels there, and we want to do... One of the things we got to remember when we are making weapons for this game is that the weapons do need to be interchangeable between all of the different vehicles. So if we make a medium weapon, all the medium weapon slots need to be the same size. If we make a small weapon, all the small weapon slots need to be the same size. As much as I want to get that artistic look, because this looks really good, it is something I need to keep in mind when we are developing the weapons and everything. For starters, let me go ahead and hide everything but the guns. And let's just focus on the weapons. And get those done first, and then we'll build the slots out for these. And we just really need some prototypes going, and one I want to kind of make these barrel slots bigger because they look kind of weird. I don't know why I'm working on both of these, but because we only need one of these. So I'm going to make that bigger there. That looks weird if it's like that. The barrel doesn't got good definition to it. It really is just a problem with the texture. That's where I was really quickly just trying to get something done so I had something to test with for the game. It needs kind of some shadows to it. I'm gonna leave it like that. I'm just gonna ask my texture artist to work on this for me, because if I spend too much time on this episode will end up an hour long of me just trying to texture, and I don't know how to texture. That's pretty much what we want to remember. So we have that mounting point there. I kind of want to duplicate the mounting point to some extent. I don't want to leave it that color though. To some extent, we probably could make custom weapons per vehicle. It wouldn't be that big of a deal. And we might come in later and actually really remake all the artwork so that way it is really nice and smooth. And when you stick, say, for example, a cannon on a different vehicle and that vehicle had a different paint job, then the cannon might match it a little better. But we do that, we get that, it gets our kind of our mounting point going. We could go with this circle kind of mounting point. So it's not too big of a deal, to be honest. I'm gonna grab this really quick because I'm gonna need to duplicate this up. So let's grab that. Turn our guns back on. Because what we're gonna want to do is get this set to a point so that way if I duplicate the guns, which what we're gonna do is just duplicate that whole layer. Probably should have set that on a different layer too, that way I could keep moving it around, but it'll be fine. I'll just redo the whole piece there. So duplicate layer, no, we do want that higher. And then we want to just move the entire layer. I was originally just going to make these guns like this. That looks boring. That looks a little better though. But then again, you're running into that shadow problem where the colors are too much the same. Well, actually, no, that won't be an issue if we actually duplicate the guns properly. So if I come down here and actually properly grab that, and then put that right there, and then we turn that back on, that doesn't look bad. That's where the shadows really do come into play. So now that looks good. We can see all of our cannons too, which is even more important, which is going to be even more important down the road as well when you start having different cannon lengths and sizes. This may be something where I may not emphasize on too much, but I may let the player kind of figure this one out on their own and be like, hey, well, if you stick this weapon here, you're not going to be able to see the weapon underneath it. I don't really like offsetting them like this. It does look okay, but at the same time, it bothers me. What we could do is also add a forward shadow to these guns. Again, these aren't going to be the final textures, but I am putting a little emphasis on these because I'm trying to figure out from the creative process, like, what are we doing? So if you do something like that, where you actually have a shadow on it, so I'm starting to borrow some techniques I learned from Minecraft modding that I should have been applying this entire time, because pixel art works in a lot of different ways. Is you want to have some kind of shadow on your item for this exact reason, because you'll end up with, in Minecraft, is that your items do stack occasionally based on various reasons. For example, you drop them and stuff, and they'll overlap. So if you have a texture that doesn't have a line around it, you actually will notice this. And it is actually very disconnecting and looks just strange. Good thing we also do with this is actually give a little bit more detail to our gun here. So it looks a little nicer. Of course, you're never going to see this detail in the game because the game is going to be like that zoomed out. But it's nice to have that extra detail just in case you ever end up in a situation where it's zoomed in. Kind of just looks bad, to be honest. That's the problem with a lot of these textures. We'll leave it like that because that should do enough. So let's hit save on this. Wait, what layer was I editing on? Okay, I'm editing on the right layer. Cool. Let's go ahead and copy this. Well, actually, we'll just copy... No, we do need to copy the whole thing. Why is it not pasting the whole thing? Oh, I did do this in the gun copy layer. So I was trying to figure out what layer I was on. So there we go. That looks a little better, and that means we can stack them now because you kind of got a difference there. I think what we could end up doing is we could figure out some way we can shadow that upper layer of guns. We could also look into maybe using something like a shader to shadow all four of them so they look slightly different from each other. That way, if you do have a little bit cruddier textures, because I do kind of still want to do modding support for this game, I have sort of figured out how I might do it. It's not something that's going to happen with the initial release, but it might happen later. Where we use JSON data to allow you to define new guns and stuff for the game. Because I've got the JSON structure at least working for the save system. So if we go into the saves, we've got this right here, which allows me to save the loadouts and stuff. Now, imagine we take the same system and we go, like, say, one file up and we have a folder called mods, or not even that, we have a folder called like content. And in the content folder, then you could have a folder for weapons, a folder for tanks, a folder for hulls, and you just define very simple scripts. And even though it may not look exactly the same data-wise as the internal engine stuff that we're using, we could just be like, hey, you make a file, you just give me the name you want the name weapon and all that stuff, and I'll turn it into a data object inside the engine, so that way you could have your own weapons and stuff. That'll work though. Now we just need to stylize the lower half, which we're going to do this. Now if I'm on the right layer, I like how you can draw on the layers, because if you, it's hard to see in the video, but if you saw right before I hit Control Z, there was actually some changes. We need to change the threshold. So do that. That gives the idea that you don't have anything that weapon select. Actually, what we could do, I don't really just want to do black there, because black is, it's okay. But it's a little bit disconnected when you get down to the lower half here. See how you can kind of... I mean, what we could do is just grab this. And we do 100% basic, and we could just draw a lip here. And that would look a little better, but it's still... you don't have depth there. It's not going to be noticeable in-game because, once again, that zoom level is a thing. And to be honest, I don't think we're ever going to have a time when you're going to spawn without weapons. I just want to make sure that we do have a fallback in case something does happen and you do see that disconnect. More importantly, I need to grab this and grab a darker color because you can't really see that. Okay, so that'll at least work for the most part. It'll get us at least going. I definitely need to work on this whole thing here, because this looks just kind of weird. One more layer there. So there's a lot of stylization work needs to be done on this. I think I need to actually carry this part forward. Something like that. I think that'll work. It's not exactly the greatest, but it'll at least look a little nicer. Okay, so I need that piece. So that piece was all the way right there. Why does this side look like it's got more tiles on it then? That's why I like dragged it over. I was like, that doesn't quite look right. So we stick it there. And yeah, we have an extra. I think we have an extra line over here. 7 and 7 in my door. Okay, so I think it'll work there. Also, I think my dog has finally decided to stop barking. So I added a little bit of extra space between those two, and I also duplicated the side to kind of fix the whole. It was kind of mislapped, same thing. What layer am I even on? So I'm on this layer. Okay, so that is correct. We want to do, you know, let's put that there. I'm going to clean this up just a little bit and get everything aligned. I don't know why I'm spending all this time on this, because the fact is we're going to not even have the guns in here. So yeah, actually that's a really good point here. So I'm going to delete the extra layer now that we figured out where everything is. And then we'll use this same style of port on all of our vehicles for the medium weapons. So this will be a medium weapon port, and that'll work. I just have to remember you recycle that style. I kind of want to make the weapon a little bigger. But I can't think of how to do it. But it'll be something that I definitely need to waste time on later, rather than in this video. So let's get rid of one of these. I don't know why I wasted time on mining it. And we'll leave this one, because we're going to need to export it and make it on its own. So we'll get rid of that. So that's now this, and it looks like we have a dot there. Okay, so make everything show back up. So we got that. Cool. I'm just going to leave this one port over here, and we'll just duplicate the gun by itself, because that should be a machine gun right there. Yeah, it's still a machine gun. That's not even centered. So we get those separated, and then I'll come back in here later and clean these textures up and make them look good. So we just need to get these so we can use them. So we'll go ahead and do this. File, save. File, export as. So we want that right there. And place it. Export. Actually kind of looks pretty cool. You gotta think if you saw lasers firing out of that would look pretty nice. What this also kind of needs, I just realized this, is that there needs to be a separation between these. The reason for that is because if you saw both those stacked up there, this looks a little weird. Let's grab a little bit lighter texture too while I'm at it, and I want to do that same thing I just did there to this back part, because that actually kind of looks kind of nice. I'll figure out the colors later for that, because those are probably not the colors I'll use, but I'd like to be able to have this look a little nicer. Because that looks really bland at the moment. I'm going to save that. I'm not going to export that though, but I'll save it. And then what I want to do is get that up there, delete this whole thing, delete that, file, save as, and we're going to call this guns. The reason why we're just going to call this guns for is because I'm going to just put all my weapons on this sheet. Because we don't need to have a texture per weapon, we can be using sheets. Now let's put this down here. I want to make sure my medium weapons are good there. What I'll do is I'll come back in here and get this all lined up and gridded, and we'll put slots behind this, so that way we make sure everything matches the slot properly. But that should work, and we'll get this file, export as, and we're going to call this tank weapons. There we go, that imports instantaneously, and it looks a little weird, so I definitely need to work on that texture, really clean it up. I think I might make the turret more box shaped rather than cylindrical or circular. I might do the same thing with this. I might make the tank a lot more boxy, because I did finally figure out where I got inspired from this. I got the inspiration from this from the British Scorpion tank, which I think I still have the article somewhere, but I'll pop it up here. So, British Scorpion tank. So this is what this basically looks like right here. That's more or less what the Lancer tank is that same style of vehicle. I didn't realize at the time when I made that, that's what I was thinking of, but more or less that's what we did. So we're going to get these on here, and then what we're going to do is go into the turret. I can find it. That's the hull, that's the turret. And we're going to generate some empty objects. So we're going to create empty. And what we literally just want to do with the empty is come over here and just get that lined up. And what we'll do is we'll add we need to make the guns. So this is something we didn't really think about, we're going to just use this as the gun here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a component here, and we'll add a sprite. Should be a sprite render maybe? Am I thinking the right thing? Yeah, probably. We then need to also go to our assets, go to our textures, which we probably should have stuck our guns into a subfolder, but it's not too big of a deal right now. Here's our gun sheet right here. We do want to say that there's multiples on here, and we want to go on a sprite editor. Apply. And how we do this is we're going to just slice it to about our best of our ability. And then what this will be is this will be tank weapon blaster. That's what that is. And we'll do this tank weapon Lancer snub cannon. That gets all of our stuff set up for that. Where do we want the pivots to be on here? Right now they're centered. I think what we're going to want to do is do bottom center for the pivots. Because we're going to probably be aligning them that way. Yeah, as long as we keep that consistent, I think it'll be fine. I think we'll have to toy with it. This is exactly why we have the prefab and offset system, is that way we can get everything set up and working and get it placed just right on the turf. It's definitely going to take some time to get everything set up. Well, I'm definitely have to come through here and redo these here later though. We go to game object, and we want to go ahead and find that cannon we just made. And that's actually lined up really good as it is. That's blurry though. Why are these blurry for? That's smooth. This is blurry. Sprite mask, sprite map across, sprite mapping wireframe. No, I'm just going to do that. I want to colorize you really quick. Oh, it's not going to color the back, is it? Because I can't exactly see to make sure that's lined up properly. Because, of course, it's deciding it wants to be really pixel blurry today. Oh, nice. Okay, so that just little bit of precision is a huge difference. That's what I was kind of messing with here. I wanted to see how that was exactly behaving. Okay, so that's going to be where that one is. So we'll have to go and decide whatever slot that is, which I'm just going to say that's 1, 2, 3. So this will be slot 3. This is where I was talking about we might want to use game objects for this, because this is going to be a little of a tedious side. So we'll get one set up and we'll call it that, and we'll get it tested so it's generating. We'll have to figure out how we're going to do weapon firing here later. So that'll be the next episode probably. Save. I need to save scene for that, but we'll do it anyways. I don't think this has been saved prefab-wise, so that should be fine. And we'll go to our script over here, which is creating things, and this is where we need to effectively loop over the whole thing and place a lot of weapons. And I'm going to borrow some code from one of these other classes so we don't have to copy everything. Because what we want, so we want to grab the tank data. The tank data should be populated by default. So there should be weapons in here. And this should be our weapons that we end up placing, in theory. I think we want this for loop down here. That one looks about the closest, so we won't have to change it as much. We don't want the debug code here. But since we store our weapons in groups, we've got to iterate over the groups. So right here, so this will be loop groups, and then loop weapons. What we'll do is we'll spawn weapon from parent to turret. So our turret object is going to be our parent in this case, and then we need to spawn the actual prefab object, which means we need to be able to put prefabs on the weapons. So we actually are going to have to take this guy right here and deparent it, now that we've actually got it all set up. We don't care about positions and everything. We want to set its color to default, which can I just right click that to clear it? I think it'll be good enough. It looks fine. Put it over here, so that's going to be our prefab. Should place just right because we set our position based off that object, so we don't have to do anything else here. We're not going to add any weapon scripts to it at the moment, so we won't be able to shoot. We'll get that in another episode. But we have this guy, and what we want to do is go out of here, go to our weapons, and we need to name this here. So this will be Weapon Lancer Snub Cannon. Drag it in here, that's our prefab. Then our snub cannon should have a prefab on it. Drag that in there. There we go. We got a prefab. We've got our size in here, all the information set up and everything, so we should be able to spawn at least this guy. We will add some checks because we will probably end up with weapons that do not have prefabs, so we don't want to be spawning them. So in here, what we're going to want to do, we need to grab this off the turret. So this is going to be the tank data. That's where this is going to be. So tank data.weapon groups, which then we'll grab our weapons. So our weapon should be this entry. So the tank weapon data equals this, and J. There we go. So that should get our weapon. And what we want to do is if weapon data dot prefab does not equal null, because we're going to end up with probably some null prefabs. So obviously we don't have the machine gun set up. And if we try to instantiate something that's null, it'll probably crash the game. I've never actually tried it before, but I'm going to assume it's going to crash. We do want to get the offset for this stuff because it's going to matter. Let's get this bigger here so we've got some more view power. So we are spawning weapon prefab here. We also want to grab the offset, so it should be named exactly the same. In this case, we are going to be spawning a weapon object. This should in theory work. Now, 3 of our cannons are going to spawn in the center. The one of them that we made should spawn in the right spot, and the machine guns will not spawn. We'll probably want to put like an arrow down here, so like debug dot. There we go, that way we at least get an error that tells us, hey, you forgot to do something. Oh, missing an assembly reference. Tank weapon does not contain a definition for offset X and offset. It should contain an offset. Oh, it doesn't contain one. We're going to need the slot, because the slot's where the offset actually is. Although I think the weapon will probably need an offset at some point too. We need to get the slot. How do we go about doing this? We should be able to grab the turret data. So turret data, this is, I'm going to have to pull this code up for this. Is it still open? Yeah, there it is. Tank turret. Okay, it's weapon group, so it looks like it's named the same. We then want to grab the group. We're going to have to go find the data for the group too. Okay, it's called slots. I really should probably copy this data into the actual tank data object, but in theory, this array of weapons which are looping over here should be exactly the same as the slot. So get slot, move this one here because we're actually spawning the object down here. Get weapon for slots, get slots for replacements. And this should be a weapon slot. And this should be J, so this should be the correct information. Then our weapon slots is what actually stores the offset. What we'd want to also do in here at some point as well, so we want to do validate weapon fits in slot. This is actually a case of an example where we would see those empty slots on the texture. Is if for some reason, like say for example, a player went in and edited that save data right there, which I have done by the way. I have actually in this case flipped the snub cannon over to be in the Lancer slots and the blasters to be in a different slot, which I'm going to delete this. Let's actually delete the save. I actually deleted the save a few times. I wonder if it's actually been saved. The wrong weapons. No, don't save. Let me check this. I hope it hasn't actually been saving a loadout into the save system. So that should be game data handler. Tank, weapon groups. Okay, there's nothing in there, so that should be fine. So hopefully that actually generates properly. If not, we can fix it. Not too big of a deal. Let's go ahead and does not have a definition for error. Okay, let's check this. Unity debug error. So I just want to get like a nice big bright. Oh, it's a log error. I'm thinking of the logging system in that I use in Java is what I'm thinking of. That you actually go logger.error to actually do the errors. Close that. Okay, close this. And go back to here. This should compile now. Come on, Unity. There you go. So now if we hit play, we should spawn with the weapons. And we're going to have to zoom in for this. And I don't see much of anything on there. Okay, we got an object here, we got an object here. I think we set the parent to the wrong thing. Yes, we did. Okay. That looks correct. Just, like, I need to really work on quality. But yeah, so we got the slot there, so it's working. I just now have to go through manually and add each slot and do the same thing for this, get the textures updated, and I'll see you guys in the next episode after I've done that.